Hey everyone, just wanted to do a quick demonstration here of the warp pipe and just kind of explain how I did it and the scripting involved. So this actually works both ways, which going one way is super easy. Two ways is much more complicated. Not much more, but a little bit more complicated. So basically, what we've got here, okay, first off, the pipe itself, you could really have this pretty much any size. I put another piece underneath it at the bottom just to make it look green on the inside. But really, like the pieces you need is the first thing is an area monitor, which I don't think I've talked about yet here on the channel. But basically, area monitors can be done with anything that has a boundary. And so this is actually a vehicle blocker. One by one by one. The reason I use that was because you can create a boundary around it, but when the game actually starts, it's not going to like cause any problem for the player. The player can go through it. We don't necessarily want vehicles going into our pipes, so it worked out well for this situation. So um, what you do here on the object properties, you go down to the boundary, set a boundary, if you want to make sure you know where the boundary is and set it up all right, you can turn it on and off here. And then you just kind of set your radius and everything. Cylinder worked perfect for what we're doing here. Um, the other parts you need is once you hit that area monitor, I tried to give it the effect that you're kind of like slowly going down in. So if you notice that, here I'll show you again here. Oh, oops. But notice when you go in, you kind of like slowly go down and then you come up. So that's an actual transform. So you're it's taking you from where you're at when you go into the area monitor, and it's taking you down to the bottom. The other thing that that's used for is when you teleport, it's going to teleport you to the bottom location and then transform you back up to the top. So that's what this top arrow here above the center of the pipe is kind of your exit location. And then this extra arrow is to basically bring you out to the edge. And the reason for that is we don't want you getting stuck in the area monitor and then doing a loop where you go in one side, back out the other side, back out the other side, like that. So essentially, we had to turn off the area monitor ability to come out, and then it moves you forward, gets you out of that, and then sets it so that you can then go into the area monitor again. So uh, let's kind of look at the nodes here on what exactly is going on. And I know this looks a little overwhelming, but we probably could trim this down significantly if you wanted just a one-way warp pipe. Um, but let's zoom in over here. Okay, so we have our object reference, which again, that's that blocker that's invisible and doesn't affect anything but vehicles. Then you connect a variable, which is an area monitor in, so it's saying monitor this object's boundaries, and then you're saying on object entered area. So that's any object. And this actually confused me right at the beginning because um, if you put a pointer, which I have a handful of them there, inside the area monitor, it thinks it's an object entering it. And it got me really confused and made this whole process really uh, involved. But one of the easy ways around that is this basically check that I put in, which is um, first thing it does is it essentially checks if the player or if the object is actually a player. If it's a player, then it goes through all the rest of the stuff. If it's not, it just will come out false in this branch. The branch is just, is it a player or is it not? And if it's a player, we go into another branch. And this is where it gets a little more complicated. You won't need this second branch if you're just doing a one-way pipe. But because we're doing a two-way pipe here, what I did is I had a second Boolean, which is again true or false, checking once you go into the pipe, it's gonna set. So if it's true, okay, it's gonna set this Boolean to false, and the false basically says I don't want the area monitor to trigger again while this is false. Keeps you from having to do that thing where you're warping back and forth because you got stuck in it. Um, if you wanted to do a one way, you don't need that. You don't need the setting, and there's another set all the way down here at the end. It's actually like this. Um, but you don't need all that if you're just doing one way. But essentially, the logic behind it is you go into the pipe, hit the area monitor, then it's going to transform you, so it moves you down to the pipe bottom pointer. Then it's going to teleport you to the other pipe's bottom pointer, which I didn't show you this, but I will real quick. It's essentially the exact same thing over here, and you can actually make one and then select all the objects. So if you select everything, I'm not going to do the bottom here, but you can actually go in and create a prefab, and then if you duplicate it, you can basically do it all in one go. And then I like to keep things ungrouped because when you're doing it, you can like adjust things and everything. Um, but yeah, it's like the same exact thing on the other side. And you could technically do this with many pipes. It just gets a little more complicated. You probably want to add like a randomizer in there and stuff like that. We won't cover anything like that in this video, but just finishing up the node graph here. So you're going to teleport to the bottom arrow of the other pipe. That's what this is doing. Then you're going to move you up out. So you want that animation of you rising up out of the pipe the same way Mario does. And then in the end you have this last move, which is moving out to the edge. And then lastly, if you're doing the two-way pipe like I have here, I'm going to set that checker back to true, which means you can go back into a pipe and go to the other side of the other pipe. All the rest of this is basically just a copy of the top part. So the bottom part here is a copy of the top. Um, this extra stuff here, declaring a Boolean variable and this identifier, are that checker saying is probably the easiest way to think of that checker is the player currently going through a pipe? Um, also, if you're going to do this with more than one player, it could get more complicated as well, because you might run into multiple players triggering things, like if two players went into the pipe all at once. Actually, however, I think as soon as one player goes in, it's going to be false up until they come out. So maybe you wouldn't actually run into that problem. But you have to think of things like that and making sure that it's going to work for more players. But essentially, all this is the same thing. Uh, it's checking, is this true? If it's true, you keep going. True basically means no one's in the pipes. False is someone's in there, wait till it's done, then it'll go true, and then someone else could go through. But yeah, that's basically the gist of the warp pipes. I thought it was a really cool idea. I really want to expand on this level, but I ran into the bug where my file is essentially corrupting and not saving. So I'm pretty much at the limit. So I'm just gonna kind of hold off doing anything more on this level um, until I can get the retail version and hopefully not run into those issues. But yeah, here's the warp pipe. Feel free to copy my design or even evolve on it when you guys get your hands on Forge. And I want to see some more Mario stuff, Mario themed maps and stuff. I had a lot of fun with this one, and I may do some more. Just we'll see how everything goes. But thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, and I'll put out some more tutorials here in the near future.